I'm Johnny Vaughan. I've stopped brass, gang. And this is Steve Brooker, otherwise known as Mudgod.
I actually want to change history.
He's one of a select group of licensed amateur archaeologists known as mudlarks who scour the banks of the River Thames, searching not for buried treasure, but for hidden history, and whose discoveries have changed our understanding of London forever.
There's stuff in that mud that no one's ever seen before.
On the Thames foreshore lies over 2,000 years of history just waiting to be discovered.
And that's what does it for me.
But larking's no job for those afraid to get stuck in. To wade through time, you've got to be prepared to get your hands dirty, armed with little more than a trowel and a lot of patience. Wait! Steve's agreed to share with me his decades of knowledge and experience.
It's cold.
We'll race against time and tide to get to the bottom of London's muddy history.
Oh yes!
Our adventures on the foreshore will propel us on historical quests that range from the sublime to the painful to the downright disgusting.
Oh, murder reeks! Oh, fuck. Out the shed.
As we become coming up, our finds on the foreshore lead Stephen to one of London's biggest killers. What is he looking like?
Your skin can become blue or even black, and people have described it as saying people look like a living corpse.
And our journey through the history of disease and medicine takes us deep into the very bowels of the city. Nice.
Oh my god, that's an odour.
And it's the end of the road for the Mudgod.
Oh, there we go. Dearly beloved, we're gathered here today to remember Steve Brooksy, Mudgod Brooks.
Today, Mudmen comes from the Cannon Street area of London, right under the famously wobbly Millennium Bridge. Now, this area is smack bang in the middle of what was once one of the most important trade districts of London. And remember, London at the time was easily the busiest port on the planet. So this place should really be a gold mine for larkers.
For every Mudgod, we need a mud crew. Now, first of all on the agenda is Willis John, the man, the myth. Of course, we have Wonder Dog, Thames Hound Stolly, but his owner, not God himself, one for the ladies. Look at that little cute face there. Next on the agenda, we have Steph the Eyes. No detector work there, just all eyes, hardly any scraping whatsoever. Last but not least, GM. Now, GM can detect, he can dig, and he can scrape. It's like the A-team of history, my Mudmen.
Okay, so we're down here right by the Millennium Bridge. They're obviously, about a decade or so old now. But what's the old world things that draw us here, that could be lurking here, and why is this of interest?
Imagine everything that came from this country, from other countries, had to come to here, to Queen Hive Dock.
Okay, so they'd have come this far down, they wouldn't have gone further up to the Docklands, they'd have been this far into London.
No, we have the Saxon Dock at Queen Hive, which, then a medieval dock.
Yeah.
Basically, everything came to here. Okay. So, look today, how many ships can you see going up and down? It's now.
I'm not going to count them now.
But imagine, in its day, say in the 16th, we could actually walk from one side to the other.
On the boats?
On the boats.
Okay.
Also, Sin City. Imagine the brothels, bear baiting. Look over there, you've got the globe there. Check out the globe.
I mean, actually, you build it like that, it's a good day out.
We are talking now, this is history here, this is big time history, and hopefully we can have something out of it. I'm going to give you a challenge.
Mind the cash, man.
Try, Mark.
It is, actually, we're going.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to challenge you to find as many items as you can within, say, I'll give you 5 minutes.
Okay.
So we're going to see if you can actually, can you become the Mudman?
What counts as thing? Pipe stems?
No, I'd like to look at your nails first. And the other hand as well. Right. For one thing, I actually want to see those dirty. So, you honestly, you haven't even tried, really, have you?
Well, no, I haven't been on there. I did wash them in the Thames.
I'm going to give you 5 minutes. I want as many items of interest. If it looks interesting, pick it up, stick it in your bucket, come back to me in 5 minutes, and I'll check it out. But the main thing is, I want to see dirty nails.
Okay, I'm resetting now. Go.
I've set him a 5-minute challenge. All he has to do is just find as many items as possible. But what's he doing? He's on the mobile phone.
With Johnny not exactly racing against the clock, it's time to see what the rest of the mudmen have scraped up.
Yeah, Jim. Oh, it's like, yeah, it's just good bits of places in there. But, grab me for German. Got a medieval reckoning counter there. Just imagine like an abacus. The way you use an abacus here, these things were used roughly the same. And you can see the condition of this because of that anaerobic mud. Basically, yeah, you could actually say, no, it looks like gold, but of course it's not. Well, yeah, right?
Some garnets. A beautiful little thing.
So is that one?
Oh, no.
Of course, what we can't really see here is, look at the colour on that. What's really strange there, nobody knows why they're there.
No one knows why they're there.
I mean, there's masses, there must be thousands. You see thousands?
Loads and loads of them down there, yeah.
What else you got?
A couple of nice little Victorian bottles.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Hey, little poison,
Yeah.
little poison.
Beautiful, eh?
Just check that out. Not to be taken. Why is it that colour?
Basically, because you have your medicine cabinet and lots of bottles of different bits and pieces, and you would have it coloured green, so you'd know that that was essentially, poisonous. You wouldn't drink it.
But already I'm pulling out some interesting things. I'll just give you an example there. I found a bike log that's been clearly, part of a crime quite recently.
The tide's coming in, we've got no time whatsoever, and he's not taking it seriously.
I am licensed to lark.
I'm going to check out his hands when he comes back, and I dare say they're going to be nice and clean.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe on a bit of mud as we get nearer there, because Steve's a bit funny about that. Look at that, it's an old belt loop. I really want to find something here, that's not a wheelbarrow. It's not something you can fake. I could get it by luck, but you need the experience of years' experience of doing it, and it's something you will hopefully I will just get better at. Thank you. You've got to put the hours in. With mudlarking, it's actually not a lark. It's really hard work, and you suddenly realise that all your veins in your head are coming out. You're looking like Luca Brasi when he gets whacked out in The Godfather, and your sort of head's just bulging. So thank you again. I'll move on. Oh, that's a bit of all right then. Look. I mean, I hope it's a Roman coin, but Steve will doubtless tell me that is something like a trading token. But there it is down there, look.
As you see, tide's coming in. I'm getting really wet. I'm going to have to go and check what he's up to. Time's up, son. Morning. Over. You cut that.
I did go over a bit, yeah.
What you got?
I've got a nice pipe stem there. I've got a bit of a pipe bowl there, but I thought you might like it because it's got some markings on it there, look, on the...
Yeah, this is the hill.
Yeah.
The stem. It's got a maker's mark on it, so you've got E on one side.
Yeah.
And W on the other side. What else you got?
Now this is evidence of a bike theft.
No.
Then I've got a saw-off padlock.
More evidence again.
I thought that was the image of Jesus. It's not.
No, it's not.
A belt buckle.
No, you must have something. You've been doing it for 5 minutes.
I thought that was a trade token actually when I saw it.
This is a medieval token. So it's a cross and pellet. Imagine that, for instance, we go and buy a loaf.
Yeah.
We need change. Change was in short demand at some point. So the monarchy didn't want to dish out, maybe silver, maybe gold.
Yeah.
But in this case, it would have been in copper or whatever. So of course we would have got one of these, which is a medieval token.
Who minted them and where did they come from? Because someone just said I'm going to print a load up.
No, a tradesman again. This could be from an inn. It could be from a candle maker.
It's like a token for bartering. Rather than taking, say, a chicken into a shop, you give him that and he can exchange it with you for a chicken sometime.
Right, what else have you got in that bucket?
That's it.
That was it. So out of the 5 minutes, that's all you got?
Yeah.
Right, so next thing, I actually just want to check your hands.
I washed them off when I was rinsing off the coin.
No, let's have hand,
They
please.
were really muddy. They were, look.
Well, we've got a bit of dirt here, but you weren't on the phone or anything, was you?
No, I'm not going to be humiliated.
Come on, Vaughan, I want to look at those hands. You have done nothing with those hands whatsoever.
I have. Coming up as the tide marches relentlessly in, we come face to face with the darker side of medicine.
Half an hour with Venus and 3 months with Mercury.
Half an hour with Venus, Mercury down there. Sorry about Steve, he's a rough man with rough ways.
First thing you're going to need, Johnny, is a body.
Oh, like I said, there we go. Lord Steve Brooker and I have been scouring the foreshore in the Cannon Street area of London. So far, though, our efforts have been mostly in vain.
I thought that was the image of Jesus.
No, it's not.
It is said that at its peak, this area of the Thames was so busy with shipping, you could cross the river one side to the other just by stepping from boat to boat. So far, though, we've turned up scant evidence of that level of activity. A few garnets and an old wheelbarrow, and that's not enough for us to consider ourselves real mudmen.
Now, Steve.
Yeah.
We know survey, assess, and you couldn't think of a third one, so you just said sausage to give us SAS. But I really want to break my duck and find something kind of good today down here. So, come on.
Well, I've told you to look for certain things,
Yeah.
and one of them is erosion, where you see blackness coming out, and normally in that blackness, yeah, you can have something good. So, if we look behind that revetment there,
Yeah.
blackness.
I think that's a good place for me to look.
Yeah.
Try I got the bucket.
Let's go have a look.
Let's go have a little look, Steve. Just guide me through it. I want your eyes, Steve, your eyes.
A revetment is a type of marine defence designed to protect the shoreline from the waves created by the river traffic.
Check this area out. Right, we're actually behind the revetment.
Okay.
Now, what can you see?
How old is this revetment, incidentally?
So this is a golden oldie. I reckon we've got 200-300 years on this.
Okay.
But as you can see here, as this is actually eroding out, like that part's missing, the tide's coming in and just taking everything out,
Okay.
taking it back out into the middle.
This is a good place for things to get wedged and
Yeah,
Let's
because
have a look.
just look at that darkness there. Right now, I can actually. Right, can you see? I'll leave this one to you.
There.
It's straight in.
There we go. I need something to wash it off with.
What do you reckon? Any idea? Well, what does it look like to you first?
A little mini cannon. No, I don't know. What is it?
It's a pewter syringe.
Is it? So how old's that?
Well, this one itself is, I'd say, 16th, 17th. So imagine, Clap was rife.
That's STDs in modern parlance. Sorry about Steve. He's a rough man with rough ways and rough words.
Hence Clap. How did you get rid of Clap in the old days? In the 16th century, 17th century?
I don't know. How did they do it?
Mercury down the old Doogie Howser.
No.
Yeah, inserted with one of these. You'll find many archaeologists don't like touching these because they know what it's been used for.
But you can't get that down your old.
No. It would have had a spike on the end of it. No needle like today. So you would just had a thin nozzle.
Yeah.
And of course
And that went straight down the old chap.
Yeah, or the boil on the back of the neck to draw out the pus. Yeah, it just would have been stuck in.
You're a rough man with rough ways, but I like your knowledge.
Now imagine this should have really been on the other side. This is Sin City on the other side, on the south side.
Well, there's actors at the Globe Theatre.
Yeah, so all the brothels that were over there.
Yeah,
so,
right.
maybe this has come over from there. But another great thing about this is there's a saying with this. You'd have half an hour with Venus,
Yeah.
and 3 months with Mercury. Half an hour with Venus, was with the Lady of the Night,
Yeah.
as in a.
Yeah.
And the 3 months with Mercury, was of course, as I said.
I thought you were going to run Venus there very cleverly. Half an hour with Venus, Mercury down there. So there we go. I've just found something there which 400 years ago could have either extracted pus from a boil or gone straight down your old chap there. And with a bit of mercury, this is a pewter syringe.
This is your first find.
Yeah.
And quite an important find.
So there we go. It's a good find from me. And that is going in the bucket, mate.
Good find.
Well, it's a good find. Cannon, look. Just ignore it. Keg of beer, a half keg.
Stella.
It's very old Stella, so, going back to the 14th century or 13th century, is that what it is?
All finds in the UK, be they from the foreshore or anywhere else, can be registered with the Portable Antiquity Scheme, a bunch of experts that keep an eye on what's turned up round the country. Luckily, we've got our own Portable Antiquities advisor, the hirsute hero of mud, Jeff Egan. Dr. Jeff also works in the British Museum and likes a pint, making him triply qualified to meet at the not-so-secret Mudman HQ for a chat about our finds.
There you go, Jeff. This is our Cannon Street booty. Give us the overview then. What do you think? Well, tremendous range here again, but this time it's a real focus on the 17th century, I would say. Some 16th century items. We go up into the 19th century, but we've got some really quite early Tudor and Stuart things, and some very interesting things among those.
And what's really good is, this is the average man in the street. This is not the kings and queens. This is, this is us.
Yeah.
And that's what's really good about it, the whole of it. Yeah.
And you know, the power of place. It's brilliant.
And of course we have a section down there near Cannon Street in a secret location where, of course, we have garnets up, semi-precious stones. So it's actually... Ooh!
What's the taste?
Dusty and dirty. But it's show you the colour. The colour is... if we go to that light there, it's a lovely colour. And of course, when this glints down there, when the sun comes out and this glints, and of course it's clean and mud-free, it looks great down there. But nobody knows why they're down there. Any ideas?
No, they're a big puzzle. They're not gem quality. They're poorer than that. You can see the crystalline structure, so they're individual crystals, which mean they're limited where they can come from.
On a good tide, when all that mud's cleared off and the light shine on it, these things just glint everywhere. There are thousands of these down there.
I did try getting the British Museum to look at some of these to try and tie them down. There's a big project going on about garnets at the moment, and they're so poor quality that they haven't come across anything quite like them, I'm afraid.
Okay.
So we don't
That's
know.
quite good. It's such a low quality. They're actually impressed.
Yeah. And well, here are my favourite. This is what I'm really particularly interested in.
Jeff, you've been keen to get into these. These are, of course...
These are lead seals put on cloths.
Yeah.
And these are the hallmarks that say the cloth is all right. And it happens that the area we've been searching, where these were found, there's half a dozen here, from the 16th and 17th century, is the centre of the dyers area of London. So where cloths from all over England were brought, white, undyed, and using the river water, they were dyeing them with various colours, mainly woad, but a wide variety of colours, mixtures, and you got beautiful names like puke was a colour.
Was it called puke?
Goose turd green, which is very evocative.
Oh, I love that.
What
Puke.
goose turd green was.
So we got puke
And
goose turd green. And these were colours.
They were colours.
I'd like some cloth, please, Jeff.
Goose turd green for you, sir.
That'll do nicely. And have you got any of the puke in stock? I'll have a roll
Puke,
of that.
there's been a run on puke, I'm afraid.
There's been a run on puke.
Well, I think almost the latest thing on the table here are these medicine bottles of glass. And the two here are very, very bright colours indeed, and there's a warning there, and I think they actually say not to be taken. Yes, not to be taken down the side. And there's a little bit of tactile labelling going on here. There's a sort of grid on top there, and I think that may even have been for people whose eyesight wasn't good enough. They knew to be wary of what was in this. This one, well, it could be
Poison.
well, absolutely. Blue is the big giveaway for poison. That is the signal.
So this blue bottle, I shouted poison humorously, but it actually was.
Yeah, bullseye.
So what have we got in here? The cyanide?
I don't know, but, opium, for instance, was famously given to children who were too noisy babies to shut them up. And
They'll do that all right.
guess what? They did fall asleep.
Yes, I bet they did. I bet they had some
loved
strange
it,
dreams.
yes, and they wanted more, of course. Right, now, this thing is very intriguing. It's actually a syringe, a medicinal syringe, again a pewter.
I found this actually, and I didn't know what it was. It was actually stuck fast there, and I looked at it, and actually at first, because it was squeezed out there, I thought it was a tube of paint. And then Steve told me the grisly truth about this. I was glad it didn't have the needle which went down the old chap there.
And they're actually very difficult to date, because once they got the design right, which seemed to happen in the early 16th century, it didn't change right up until the 18th century. But I guess from where this was found is it's likely to be 17th. Right, well, so we've got virtually everything you can think of here, or we've touched base on so many things, industrial, domestic, but I think you can focus on the medicines here, the syringe and those bottles. Still a lot to be found out.
So that means you're going to get injected down the Doogie Howser.
Because it's actually quite a phenomenal Doogie Howser.
We can get a smaller one in, a much smaller one.
With our minds firmly set on all things medicinal, it's time to go our separate ways to learn more. Brooksy is off to the Hunterian Museum to learn about the development of modern medicine, while I investigate the ghoulish practice of body snatching.
If
found loads of medical bits on the foreshore, and I'm not one for needles, but this item tricked my imagination. I've come to the Royal College of Surgeons Hunterian Museum, named after surgical pioneer Dr. John Hunter. Curator Sam Alberti is going to apply some salve to my curiosity. Johnny and I were on the foreshore down by the Millennium Bridge, and behind a revetment we find this. Now I know it's a pewter syringe. Can you tell us any more about it, Sam?
Well, this is really interesting. It's probably around the 18th century, but it's difficult to say what it was for because syringes had a variety of uses. So it could have been for syringing out your ears, it could have been for other orifices, it could have been a small enema syringe.
For years and years, most mudlarks have always thought that, of course, for syphilis, that this would have been used to inject mercury down the, how can I say this, down the Doogie Howser.
I think it unlikely, I'm afraid. Yeah, more likely to have been an ear syringe. Less glamorous, more likely.
Well, that has well and truly shattered my theory on mercury, hasn't it?
From the collection here, this is a syringe from the 20th century. This is the sort of thing we understand today to be a hypodermic syringe, and as you can see, it's a very different object there, kind of mass-produced glass and nickel as opposed to your wonderful find here.
From syringes to bone saws, medical equipment was pretty rudimentary in the 18th century. People were prepared to put up with a lot of discomfort in the search for a cure. There was very little scientific basis for most of their medicine.
Well, the 1700s, there's still a lot of hocus-pocus going on. There still is today. A lot of surgeons in the 18th century would do a lot of amputation and so on. The bloodletting was a very common treatment for all sorts of things that were wrong. And so this instrument here is a scarificator. I don't know if you can see, but it has 12 very fine blades that would come out. So you'd put this over the part of the body, release the blades to create these very fine wounds, and then heat up this cup and put it over the area, which would suck the blood out. And people would bleed maybe a pint of blood, which would actually usually make them much worse.
So all this is going on at the same time as my syringe is being used?
Yes, absolutely. What's important about the 1700s is that you're training more people formally to be doctors and physicians, and surgeons are starting to use anatomy. They're starting to use the anatomical knowledge from the Renaissance, and they're starting to use that in training. So you're getting a lot more formal training by John Hunter and Percival Pott and William Cheselden, and they're training their successors. It's not until the 1800s that these great advances come along, and that's when you start getting the big teaching hospitals and the great advances in surgery. The so-called age of heroic surgery is in the late 1800s, and that's when you start getting fewer people dying from operations.
So who was John Hunter, and what advances did he make?
Well, John Hunter goes off to war and comes back with a detailed knowledge of gunshot wounds and trauma wounds and how to treat them. He then becomes one of the greatest anatomists of his age, looking at animals and natural history, looking at the development of teeth. He understands a great deal about the circulation of the blood and wounds, and so Hunter's great achievement was to put surgery on a scientific basis.
So what do we actually owe these anatomists? You know, the guys that charted how our bodies work?
Well, we owe them everything. We owe them how our healthcare knowledge functions today. And it's from these humble instruments, like the one you found, that we have the instruments that we know and we can use today to make surgery safer.
Coming up, I get the lowdown on the cadaverous practice of grave robbing.
When we get this kind of appetite for cadavers.
In the early 1750s, you need more bodies.
And Steve and I get down and very dirty in the sewers of London.
I have to add here, Steve, as well, it is rising fast.
Mud god Steve Brooker and I have been getting under the skin of disease and medicine in the oldie London.
I think it unlikely, I'm afraid. More likely to have been in the ear syringe. Less glamorous, more likely.
And coming up, I'm looking at the grisly world of body snatching. In the early 1750s, surgery moved from being something your father did to something a proper trained surgeon did. But the new medical schools that are springing up fueled an insatiable demand for fresh corpses for dissection. Where better to find some bodies than a graveyard, which is where I'm meeting Kirsty Chilton from the old Operating Theatre Museum.
What started the medical schools was the dissolution of the Company of Barber Surgeons in the early 1750s.
Because of course people don't realise that it was, barber shops where people had their surgery. Hence we still got the red and white pole outside, which is a remnant of that, show blood and bandages.
Yes, and quite a lot of barbers did a lot of simple surgical work, like tooth pulling and bone setting. But you didn't get a lot of people who were sort of highly qualified, scientifically practicing surgeons who cut hair.
Okay.
Right. So there is a desire from the surgeons to lose an association with these people.
So when do things turn grisly, and when do we get this kind of appetite for cadavers?
Surgeons had private arrangements with usually gravediggers to bring them corpses from burial grounds around London. After the medical schools open and you need so many more, you effectively get this kind of professional class of resurrectionist appear in the capital.
The term resurrectionist is a polite euphemism for body snatchers, criminals who dug up graves and sold the corpses for profit.
There was potentially quite a lot of money in the business, and also why it was, they tried at least as far as they could to run it like a closed shop. Some series of gangs by the start of the 19th century really had control of the selling and the selling of bodies to the schools in the capital.
How much would it have been per cadaver? How much would the body snatchers have been paid?
In the 1820s, you might get between £5 and £10.
Rents may vary, but in 1830, £10 would pay your rent for an entire year.
That's good money, though.
Yeah, a lot of money.
Oh, no wonder the gangsters got involved. And this was good.
It's very gangland, and and it was good money, and that's why they protected their own particular territory so carefully.
So why did it, excuse me, die out?
After the Burke and Hare scandal in 1828, this kind of has Parliament sit up and take notice.
Burke and Hare were two Irish immigrants to Edinburgh who decided digging up bodies was just too much trouble. So they just killed people and sold their bodies instead. 17 in total before they were caught.
Then you get the Anatomy Act in 1832. And what the Anatomy Act does is legally license anatomical teachers in the capital, and it makes it possible for the surgeons to take any of the bodies of the unclaimed dead for anatomical dissection. So this really ends the business. There's no more need for resurrection men.
Although we were making huge leaps in understanding human anatomy and how the body worked, we still had no idea how disease was spread. The average life expectancy was a mere 35 in places, and London suffered from terrible outbreaks of killer diseases like cholera, which literally killed thousands at a stroke.
So it's always had the image of being a bit sleazy, a bit seedy. But back in the 19th century, it was a whole different ballgame. The place was very overcrowded and there was poverty everywhere. And if it was pretty disgusting above ground, below ground festered cesspits, some of which had never ever been drained.
The city was a ticking time bomb, a bacterial breeding ground, and in the summer of 1854, disease was about to burst forth.
Medical journalist Sandra Hempel explains how one disease, cholera, decimated London's population.
Cholera was one of the big killer diseases at a time when there were lots of horrible killer diseases around and very few treatments for them.
What exactly does cholera involve?
Some people have been known to die within 2 hours of the symptoms first coming on.
2 hours before or after it kicks in?
It can. Yes, absolutely.
Let's have some gory symptoms.
Okay, it causes violent vomiting and diarrhea to the extent that you actually throw out all of your body fluid. So people in the end die of dehydration.
I mean, at the moment I've had hangovers that are like that, and frankly when I was sitting in my teenage years when I was woke up clutching the old porcelain, What else does it do? How does he start looking like?
You physically shrink, your skin can become blue or even black, your fingers and toes start to shrivel, and people have been described it as saying that people look like a living corpse.
So what changed?
Well, in 1854, in this western area of Soho, there was the worst ever outbreak of cholera, and 600 people died in 10 days. One man came up with a theory, so let me take you to an iconic scene in the story of cholera.
The overriding belief at the time was the miasma theory of transmission, that bad smells caused and spread disease. A doctor from Yorkshire, though, thought he knew better.
Now, Sandra, I mean, you've really read mine as Steve's minds bringing us to a pub, but I'm sure you're not thinking of taking us on an all-day drinking bender.
Well, I'm afraid not. The John Snow pub is named after a figure who was absolutely key to our story. He was fascinated with this problem about how this disease was spreading, and he began to study it. John Snow was saying that cholera was being spread by infected water.
Snow examined the Soho outbreak in detail and realised that a single source of water was the centre for the epidemic. His famous map, which logs the deaths during the outbreak, was crucial to his ideas. It's become the basis for all modern studies of epidemics. It also turned up a curious anomaly. None of Soho's numerous brewers got ill during the outbreak. He realised this was because they never drank water, just ale.
It's a pump.
It is indeed. It's a replica of the real pump, which was on the other side of the road outside the John Snow pub.
But what was special about this pump?
He had discovered that practically everybody who died had drunk water from the pump. He told the parish councillors, who were so desperate for a solution, that they agreed to take the handle off the pump.
So hence the pump with no handle?
Absolutely, that's key to the whole story. Gradually people came to accept that John Snow was right, but sadly it was after he died that his ideas really became accepted, which was very sad.
The Van Gogh of hygiene.
Yes, indeed, sadly, yes.
While Londoners ignored Snow's warnings linking foul water to disease, they couldn't ignore the foul stench of the Thames. The capital's cesspits were dumped into the river, causing horrendous odours and supposedly disease-causing miasma. The period even became known as the Great Stink. It got so bad, Parliament, which sits right on the river, had to close.
18 days into the Great Stink, an act was rushed through Parliament to give massive funding to a brand new sewer system in London.
The man in charge of creating London's monumental new sewer system was engineer Joseph Bazalgette. And whilst his intention at the start was just to clear up that big stink, he inadvertently did more for the health of Londoners than all the Victorian doctors put together. What a guy.
Rob Smith from Thames Water, who manages the sewers today, is giving us a rather unpleasant guided tour.
Morning lads, alright. Alright there. First things first, the environment that you're going into, it is dangerous, it's a fire space.
How dangerous, Rob?
It's added danger today because of this rain.
What bad things could go on down there?
Drowning, gassing.
I was really looking forward to this, now I'm scared. I can ask you why I'm doing this today.
Because you are looking forward to it and you're going to enjoy it.
1, we're looking forward to it. 2, we're going to enjoy it. And 3, it's actually quite educational, isn't it?
It is going to be very educational. Just remember that everything that you're wearing on over the top of this, harness, boots and everything, has been contaminated by sewage. So when you come out, as soon as you possibly can, have a shower.
I look forward to watching you all from the monitor in the van.
You're going to be watching it from a closer viewpoint than that.
Okay, let's get down there, Steve. As usual, I shall lead the way.
We'll see you down the hole then, boys.
Well, I'll see you down there. I'll follow you up.
Enjoy.
I'm going to tail you up. Oh my God, that's an odour.
Okay then guys, we're going into the front of the Fleet main line, in front of the river flats.
These are the actual flats, are they?
Yeah, they allow the surface water, storm water through out to the river.
And how old are these, Rob? And these are actually...
These are the original Bazalgettes and about 150 years old.
Okay, now you said they're Bazalgette. Who actually was this Joseph Bazalgette? I know he's an engineer, but who was he?
Bazalgette was an engineer who was commissioned to help stop the pollution in the River Thames and clean up the River Thames. So he actually designed and had a hand in building the sewer system that we have today.
Is it a good system? Does it work?
It is splendid.
Someone once told me the big enemy down here was nappies. Is that right?
Nappies, we don't want nappies into the system, but no, the biggest enemy is fat, wet wipes, and then maybe nappies.
Fat, wet wipes and nappies.
Yes.
Welcome to my world. Now let's have a little look around then.
Like level 1, lads, that's where we're going.
Okay, so where are we? What's this?
We're in the Fleet Relief, the main chamber down by the River Wall.
Oh, I know, it says we stand here, this is rising.
I have to add here, Steve, as well. It is rising fast.
It will come up at a rate of about an inch or so a minute.
Is there ever a time when it gets quite perilous down here?
There is danger, of course there is. This is the river water coming back in, and you've got the other flow, the storm water, coming down through the system, and it's got to peak somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's going to peak here.
Oh, what here? What here? Under this bridge?
No, in this area.
Okay. I'll just say that so I know Steve panics. I'm fine, I'm quite cool in this.
So is this the original part of Bazalgette sewer?
The whole area that you've been in is all the original Bazalgette sewer system.
Here's a guy who's built a system for 2 million Londoners to carry their sewage, and it still does us for 8 million today, and it's not overstretched, is it?
No, the whole embankment right the way across from West London across to East London contains the district line, and it also contains low level 1 sewer, and of course all the junctions to all the sewers that are running down to it.
Is that right? So the embankment is just a sewer. What an amazing thing.
Yeah, that's why I say Bazalgette, amazing guy, amazing engineer.
The sewer system may not have been specifically designed with waterborne illnesses in mind, but it was part of a general move forward in sanitation and health that saved thousands of lives.
Do you ever think about the strain you put on the system, Steve, when you sit down in your car?
I have my moments, and especially after a roast dinner.
Tell us about that.
Coming up, Steve volunteers to see firsthand the Victorian obsession with death and their elaborate funeral arrangements, all in the name of history, of course.
Dearly beloved, we're gathered here today to remember Steve Brooksy Mudgod Brooks.
Armed with a team of specialist mudmen and teamed up with Steve Brooker, self-styled Mudgod, we're boldly going on a mission through history. Battling the cold, the sewage and the odd angry seagull, we're sifting through centuries of Londoners' discarded tomes and tokens and piecing together a hidden history of a capital city into the story told by its river, Old Father Thames. The story of medicine has led us from grave robbing to sewer crawling and from the pub to the funeral home. We've seen that Victorian London had countless ways to kill you, but what happened after death? If the cholera didn't get you, there was no shortage of ways to meet your makers back then. You got diphtheria, influenza, typhoid, whooping cough, scarlet fever, polio, measles. The 19th century had no shortage of killers.
And with so many ways to die, death became fashionable.
It certainly did, Steve, so let's get fashionable. In Victorian times, death became yet another event for the socially aspirational to advance their position in society. A series of rituals developed to mark the passing of a loved one. It became a competitive social event with people trying to outdo one another with ever more elaborate shows of loss and more extended periods of mourning. Expert in the fads and fashions of the Victorian death cult, Dr. Helen Frisbee is meeting us to explain.
Is it fair to say that Queen Victoria really was the poster girl for the whole funeral, mourning, death business? And how did that come about? When did it come about?
Prince Albert died very suddenly of typhoid in December 1861, and Queen Victoria took that very hard. She wore black for the rest of her life. She withdrew from public life, which obviously in her role was a bit of a problem. Yeah.
When did she come out of that mourning then? How did that end?
Not until 1897.
So that's 36 years that she didn't come out in public.
Yeah, and then she died 4 years later, 1901.
Indeed.
Is that what really kick-started this kind of mawkish, funereal culture of the Victorian age? The fact that you've got a monarch setting an agenda of mourning right at the top?
It would be fair to say that to a large extent that culture was there already, particularly amongst the aspirational middle classes. And it was these social classes which perhaps really sort of picked up on the fashion for mourning and intensified it after Victoria's own bereavement.
So why were the Victorians so obsessed with death?
Because death was part of ordinary life of many Victorians in a way that perhaps we just can't imagine now. Something like 15% of all babies that were born would not have made it to the compulsory school leaving age, which incidentally was 10.
Was it in the Victorian era then that sort of the modern funeral was kind of born in terms of the etiquette, the format, if you like?
The modern funeral's really been developing since the late Middle Ages, but I think it's fair to say that in the Victorian period we really start to see a lot of the rituals we would be familiar with today. The rituals started at the moment of death with things like extinguishing the fire, covering mirrors, opening the doors so the soul can escape.
So what were the stages of mourning?
Well, the first stage of mourning lasts an absolute minimum of a year and a day, and if you were respectable or trying to portray yourself as respectable, you would probably stay in first mourning for quite a while after that.
Steve and I are very interested in this whole Victorian funeral cult, if you will. We really want to delve deeper. What's the first thing we really need in order to sort of continue our journey into this?
Well, the first thing we're going to need, Johnny, is a body.
It's a body.
Not very easy to get hold of these days, no.
Hey, look over there, Steve. £400. Oh, cheers, Steve. Right, so there we go. Our hypothetical body has now become reality.
Great
I think we should get started.
Absolutely, let's go.
Lead the way. Oh, Baldy! Sorry, move. Here lies the body of our dear departed brother Steve. He's now very much in the coffin, and may the Lord have mercy on his soul. But in Victorian times, what would have happened next?
Well, we'd have put some things into the coffin, but let's start with some bran.
Okay, we've got some bran here from a leading bran flake. Bran manufacturer, breakfast cereal there. Why bran?
Bran would have soaked up the bodily fluids that would have accumulated after a few days of decomposition in the house.
So I just scatter this in then?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Just a little bit in the bottom.
Okay, a little bit in the bottom. As you say, just to soak up those bodily fluids.
Just to make things a bit pleasant.
Well, Steve, you know, he would have had a lot of fluids in him. He's a big drinker. It's not a problem. But he would have been a big drinker.
Best to be on the safe side, I think.
And, sorry, Steve. And John, put the box there as well, because he does enjoy a bit of that in the morning. Not that he's going to enjoy any more. Okay, what next?
The next thing we need is some rosemary.
Some rosemary. I have to say, it is my very favourite of all herbs. I use it every Sunday when I'm doing lamb, and certainly with my potatoes. But why with a dead body, which I don't tend to do?
Rosemary is a lovely aromatic herb, and again, it would just help mask the smell of decomposition a bit.
Okay, so do I just place this in?
You do, yes.
Here we go. I'll put that in there.
Lovely.
I'm going to try and be a bit artistic about this. Give Steve a good old send-off there. Okay.
That's great. And the next thing we need is some salt. Do you have any salt?
I've got some salt, actually, yes.
Oh, perfect.
And because I didn't want to spill any, I also got a little saucer there.
Oh, that's absolutely perfect. So if you just pop it in the chest, please.
I'll pop the salt on the chest there. Well, I'll put the saucer there.
And then you put the salt on the saucer.
Okay. So why salt? I mean, it is the subject of so much superstition and magical properties. Is that why?
Absolutely, yes. It's for good luck. Salt helps arrest decomposition. Obviously here it's being used symbolically.
Who really took care of all the arrangements? Who was in charge of that? Was it the family or the funeral directors, the undertakers?
Well, from the mid-18th century, we start to see the rise of the professional undertaker as we would understand them today. Initially, their customers were mainly the upper classes and the aspirational middle classes. Right into the 20th century.
You were talking about how the middle and upper classes did this, but now, that enduring, most powerfully iconic image of the Victorian funeral, the horse-drawn hearse, as an icon, it's so powerful.
Absolutely, because you can't help but think about death. You can't ignore it.
Were they looked down on then, undertakers?
I think certainly anybody who's sort of making money out of another's grief is always going to be something of a target.
That's what they're often depicted, I guess, in that kind of vulture form, the tailcoat. But actually, someone's got to do it.
Absolutely.
And today, it's me. We've got Steve, he's got his rosemary, he's got his salt, he's got his bran, he's got a nice coffin there, well, a pretty low budget coffin. In fact, it's going to be a very low-key funeral, I think, and a very low-budget funeral. Should we pop the lid on?
I think we should.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Dr. Frisbee helps me on with the coffin lid, and then I take Steve's body to his spiritual home, the foreshore, where I've invited 100 or so of his closest friends and family to help see him off.
Rock, when we reach the foreshore, let's give the old boy a bit of a slow march, eh?
That's a very good idea.
Can I just say, as we do this though, keep your eyes skinned for anything. That's what you would have wanted.
I'm looking out.
See if we can see any coins or a padlock. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? That'd be a fitting send-off.
Nice spot.
Good work, Rock.
He's heavy, isn't he?
Here you go, Sonny. Dearly beloved, we're gathered here today to remember our dear departed brother, Steve Brooksy. Well, Rock and I are, and Stolly came along because you couldn't leave her alone.
No, not at all.
The other mudmen would have been there, but they declared it a special day down at the Tower of London. You could actually dig down 3 inches there, so they were lured by the promise of that. But anyway, we've made the effort to be here. He was a good man, Steve, and he never did find a complete Bellarmine jar.
Almost.
Well, yeah, 90% of one, but he leaves behind 3,000 padlocks. What else?
Another in his garden.
Yeah. And of course a shed, which if I suck up to his wife, who again can't be here today, she's got an extra shift at Tesco. You know, maybe she'll leave me the shed, I don't know. Anyway. Bye, Steve.
See you later, mate.
Right. Let's sling her in the Thames.
Suck him in and go have a pint after.
Got a good point, yeah. Got it. Yeah. Bye, Steve.
I'm going to salute them.
Right. Papa, listen, for Series 2,
Yeah.
there's a bit of a gap in the lineup,
Is there?
you know, yes. Well, you're looking good, Rock. You did really well in that one. You know, people say,
I can't believe you did that to me.
yeah, Steve, what are you doing? Oh, come on, mate, I didn't nail it down. I tell you took your time.
I just can't
I thought
believe
you'd be out there while it was still
I thought you was in mate as well.
mate.
I thought I was going to die. It's just after the Mud God title.
No, Steve, for that, it's your round.